Hello and welcome everyone to the first Collective Imagination show for 2016. So welcome Barbara to
Thank you.
2016. How's the year been so far? All 20 days of it?
Super.
I'm not so convinced, actually.
No, it's actually been absolutely terrific until 30 seconds before the show when my lamp went out and refused to go back on.
So you're back in
New York?
Your old neck of the woods. Yeah. How's it feel to be back?
Good, really good. I'm happy wherever I am.
I know you are. So welcome to everybody who has joined us in our live studio audience. Thank you for that. Yesterday, Barbara, on the roundtable, I brought this up a little bit, and it's the topic that I really wanted to explore more today, which is because I've noticed it happen again. It's like the year has started the same way last year did, which was with this kind of warrior vibe happening. But it feels different. Last year, it was like everyone wanted to get their boots on and just kick some ass.
Mm-hmm.
This year, it's more of a knowing of inner power. So yesterday, I was making this reference between power versus force. Last year was force. This year seems more powerful. There is last year where it was like, okay, I've had enough. And it was just this sort of, this time it's more of, enough's enough. I know who I am. I know what this reality is now. I think we've learned a lot in the last 12 months.
No kidding.
And I don't know, there's just something different about it. And yet it's still warrior-ish, right? So when it came to what do we do with that energy? How do we express it? The collective imagination was based on the premise of creating what we want, putting that energy into creating what we want. And that's certainly one way to do it, because I know we can do it. We've done it many, many times. But then there's the other side where you can proactively and consciously bring down the old. Mm-hmm. But that takes a different kind of energy. It takes a different frame of mind. It takes a different sense of knowing who you are, a level of confidence and knowing that you are untouchable. I've done lots of that kind of conscious, energetic work in the last few years. And there can be very real repercussions to that and backlash. So you kind of got to know what you're doing and know what you're dealing with. And I know that there are a lot of people who listen to this show who are very, very capable in their energetic doing,
Agreed.
And who know exactly what I'm talking about. So I wanted to have a conversation around whether or not we take that energy, that warrior vibe that's going around with, if you're feeling it, and do we continue to sort of just create what we want, or do we actively take down the old? And the idea around taking down the old came from a series of emails that Dee and I receive from a particular person who just goes by the name Archon Hunter. Well, doesn't just go by that name, but that's what he refers to himself as. And the whole idea that if this is a hologram, this is a matrix, it's very technologically driven. And I can feel that. A lot of us can feel that. It's got this aesthetic vibe to it, at its very core. And that being the case, there are CPUs at the heart of it all. And we could, in fact, tune into those and kind of fry them Dee came up with the idea yesterday of using our own magnetics that we produce to just kind of wipe them clean.
Ooh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, I liked it too. Yeah.
Because it can be done so gently and peacefully and nonchalantly, and then you're on your way.
Mm-hmm. So I wanted to get some input from the from our studio here on, are you feeling this warrior vibe? Do you feel, firstly, do you feel that you are more inclined to put it towards creating something else or taking down the old? And we'll go from there in terms of where everybody's sitting. But I'm not seeing, everyone's either being very, very quiet in the chat room or it's not updating for me. Ah, there we go. I sure am more in my own power. Yep. Yes. Disconnecting from the old. Both. So who wants to get their warrior boots on? Creating in the new. Okay. Buckle up. So
I'd also like to ask the audience if they, for those who have not said that they're interested in the warrior side of things for our Connect today, do you have any trepidations about doing that if we find that that's the consensus? Because you will be participating simply by being here with all of us. I just want to make sure that you're all comfortable with that.
Disconnecting from the old and creating and manifesting what I want. Linda says not an issue. Yeah. Linda's a warrior though.
Yeah, that I know.
Protection measures. Okay.
We've talked about that. What do you have in mind for protection, Lisa?
Actually, I'd love Linda to share.
That's a good idea.
And then I will. Oh no, she says. Yeah, come on. You can unmute yourself, Linda, and come out and talk to us.
You could, if you're really that uncomfortable. I mean, I would love to have you come on the show, but I don't want to make you feel uncomfortable. So if you prefer to type it in, you can do that. I just would love to be able to share your energy with everybody who's watching the show.
Okay, Violet, enough warrior energy going on in my workplace. Can you elaborate? Because to me, the warrior energy and just a bunch of aggression or competition, or that's not warrior energy to me. That's just people dealing with their shit. There's a difference. Is that what you're seeing? Like people are being aggressive or competitive or out of sorts?
Yeah, because that is not at all what we're talking about. We don't have any intention of doing anything like that. We're talking more about you're determined, you're excited about this, you're ready, you strapped your boots on, you're ready to put your energy into it, make this work, dedicated, that kind of thing. Ooh, 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 ooh.
HK philosophy of intent and returning any negative energy to the sender tenfold. Yep, that works. There's a whole bunch of things you can do. In fact, I found that it doesn't really matter what you do as long as you know it's working. It's all about your own knowing. I'll give you an example. Dee uses a visualization of like these iron doors coming down. And she knows nothing's getting in. And nothing gets in. It could be a bubble.
I like bubbles.
Nothing's getting in.
Yeah, whatever works for you.
Yeah, it's whatever you know. And not just have a faith in or it's, a mild belief in, but you need to know that this is working, that you are untouchable if you say so. That, and it's not about putting putting it out there for protection from somebody or something else to protect you. You are fully capable of protecting yourself. Because remember, nothing can without your consent, and even your own doubt is enough. So it's about not having any doubt. It's about knowing who you are, knowing the power that you have, knowing your ability to manifest and create, but also to protect yourself. A golden bubble around works for me. My words, right, Lise? Nothing can harm me without my consent. I mean, I've been feeling like doing something for some time now. And to me, this warrior energy doesn't have to be destructive. We can use the power of love and just neutralize or bring everything back to a 0 point or a neutral state. That doesn't have to be destructive. And it's just by creating a field that is harmonious, anything that doesn't resonate with that field of harmony gets bounced out. There's a bunch of ways it can be done.
I actually like that concept.
It's claiming what's yours, just to neutralize destructive energy. Feels like a trap or a bait. Yeah. Well, back to HK philosophy again. When you enter the game of another, you are subject to the rules of their game. So if we collectively create the rules of our own game and agree upon the rules of our game, then we've created a field that is our game, and anybody wants to mess with that are subject to our rules, which means if that field is of the vibration of harmony, of love, you can't come in there and do anything negative or destructive or harmful. You just get bounced right out. And I've seen that work in real time. I'll give you an example. Back in Morocco, in the big house that everybody was living in, on a couple of occasions, Darius and I created fields around the house. One of them was that anything that enters the house becomes transparent immediately. And you should have seen how that played out. People exposing themselves all over the shop. On another occasion, we did one that was more in line with, everybody who comes in has to come in agenda free, and for the benefit of all. And if they walked in the door and they weren't of them, they had an agenda. They couldn't stay. They just had to turn around and leave again. They got very uncomfortable because every time they tried to play out their agenda or their manipulation or whatever, it just kind of got stuck and wouldn't go anywhere, and they got all frustrated and had to get out. So it works. That I've seen work. That defines sovereignty for me: self-determining your own experience. Thanks for the tips. Okay, destructive energy feels like a trap or bait. That's why creating new will not allow their participation. It's our game. When I interviewed John Lamb Lash and he announced the Kalika War Party, people's responses were so varied to that concept. And he had different levels of participation. He had people coming together to work energetically like we're doing, and all the way down to people physically in commando gear and armed and taking people out, and a few things in between. So it was people's responses. There were some who just absolutely gung-ho wanted to arm up, and sit on a rooftop somewhere and just pop them all off one by one. there were others who were completely repelled by that idea. And it's interesting talking to him because his compassion, tolerance for them is pretty much non-existent. As far as he's concerned, they don't deserve any, I guess. And yet you had other people responding to him in that, and with this, that, no, we can't do that. We're just bringing ourselves to their level, and that whole conversation started. So there's a number of ways to go around this. If we are going with the idea that they cannot survive in the new energies, why engage? That's why this feels like a trap to me. I see. Oh, where did Barbara go? You muted. Yep.
I'm here. I needed to cough, and I didn't want to cough in front of everyone's face. I got a bit of a cold. I came home. I was like healthy as all get out. The day I came home, I've had something. It's it's one thing and then the next thing. It's just So right now it's this, whatever this congestion is.
It'd be a lot colder where you are now, though, from where you've been.
Ooh, yeah, it's quite cold right now.
What is it at the moment?
It is, it's 27, which isn't so bad. 27 degrees. I don't know what that is Celsius. But it's windy. It's really windy. So it's probably more like 18 to 20 with the wind chill.
Temperature.
Conversion thing.
27. Holy shit, that's -2. Nearly -3.
That's not very cold. It gets much colder here.
Yeah, in my language, that's...
I think tonight it's supposed to get down to 18 tonight. But, but I'm happy. It's just, I came home and I'm telling you, I'm picking up one thing after another.
If it's 10 degrees here, it's cold, which is your 50. We're all complaining.
Wow.
Yeah, 10 is like, oh, you don't leave the house. And the fire is on all day. And yeah.
Wow. That actually is, that's I can live with 50 quite easily. To me, that's just jeans and a hoodie.
No, that's long drugs and beanies and mittens. And we don't do cold weather over here. Okay, I'm just going to catch up on the chat room because they've been having quite a chat. I'd like to take a few of them out on the way. Okay. Anything that is not in alignment with our expanding frequencies of harmony and love can't tolerate it, and they will expose themselves and have to leave. They are dissolving, I feel. That is why they are fighting so hard to get our attention. Yes, they are dissolving, literally leaving. Yes.
Yeah, they are working hard to get your attention. That I can attest to.
So, okay, we haven't done a show for a while, and a lot has happened in the interim.
It was right before Thanksgiving, I believe.
I'm going to need power. But I remember coming, and I think this was since the last show that we did, so I don't know if we've talked about it. This whole idea of timelines and how it all feeds into one another. It's my overwhelming feeling that the old, if we want to call it timeline, or actually, I didn't tell you this, but okay, so I'm all over the shop. David Icke's concept, visual concept, which is exactly what we've been talking about, which has made me laugh. So, but to put it into his words, there is an organic reality, but it's still a hologram, but it's an organic one. And then there's this photocopy, essentially, of it. And he uses the word inverted. So everything's opposite. you know, this is love-based, this is fear-based, and everything is upside down, back to front, and arse up. We could call those the timelines. And in one respect, you could say that that puts us one step removed from the organic, right? Once removed. What's happening now, and this also ties in with this whole concept that I've had going around in my head for 12 months, that of a reset of timelines. Like every so often they have to do a reset of everything. And every time they do, it's actually a copy of the copy. So it's trying to take us yet another step removed from the organic and original. Do you know what I mean? This is,
yeah, but I didn't hear that part yet in the presentation.
He doesn't talk about this. This is how I'm using his terminology to play into my concept. So I'm using his as the starting point. They've also, I'm convinced, injected 1,000 years into this recent history of ours. They've made that whole thing up.
Yeah, I agree.
The whole Middle Ages period, you know, all of that. I think it's one story of perhaps a dozen people from before that they've just told over and over and over again, changing the names of the characters, and created this whole 1,000 years. That every time they do this reset, it's really, a copy of the previous version, and it's trying to get us more and more and more removed from the original organic. There is something that's come to light just in the last 48 hours with the people that I'm working with, which would suggest, I'm trying to put this into words, because at the moment I'm only going to put it out there as theoretical, even though there's paperwork to back up what I'm saying, but you got to go back to the OPPT filings, believe it or not. If the OPPT filings actually did put a stop, bankrupt the whole thing, put a stop to it. It put the whole corporate, because the whole world is just a corporate photocopy basically of the original, right? It put it in limbo because it bankrupted it, or put a stop on everything except the Vatican. And then the Vatican used that, I can't remember what they called it. Remember in 2013, 6 months after the OPPT filings, the Vatican put out
no
paper bull, but it was a papal something or other. And that kind of put them in a position where they gave them an opportunity in a way. It gave them a platform to then do the reset. Right? And then they had to kind of scramble to come up with a new, I'm trying to put this into words without, because even in the conversations that I was having around this in the last 24 hours, the technology just got completely smashed, right? So I'm trying to use words that don't trigger anything. Okay, OPPT filings puts a stop, presses the pause button. The Vatican then comes along a few months later and creates the space for the reset. The TPP then becomes the platform for this reset. And I know that might all seem very vague right now. Kind of bear with me.
I'm following you.
Now, because there's a lot in that. Again, with the photocopies of photocopies of photocopies. Are you okay?
Yeah, I just have a really bad cough, but I'm fine.
You've got Indigenous tribal law all around the country, all around the world, And if you go back far enough and you follow the paper trail far enough, you'll find that it is the premise, it's the very foundation for international law.
Hmm.
Believe it or not.
Makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense.
But again, going back to David Icke's organic photocopy, it gets kind of inverted a little bit. But because, as we've been saying forever, they can't create, they can only manipulate what is created. Everything has to go back to the source, which is that original, that organic, right? And that no matter how many times you replicate, as long as there is actually a trail, there is a physical paper trail as well as an energetic trail that can be followed all the way back to source, or that original organic version. And this is all going to tie into this warrior thing there eventually.
Oh, this is fascinating.
If anybody's interested, go and have a look.
Ooh, that looks terrible.
At where they're planning on signing the TPP. It's really interesting as to why, of all the places in the world. Energetically, I don't care how many copies. Well, if we look at those copies as timelines, then I believe most of them have closed out, right? And we're actually down to 2, but they're desperately trying to do another one right now, because we're down to 2. We're down to this organic one, and the photocopy is the one that is crumbling, which is why we're seeing the Mandela effect. It's why we're seeing the dome and the flat earth. It's why we're seeing all this stuff. It's running on fumes as far as I'm concerned. I don't think it's repairable. It's been infected. If you want to look at it like a matrix hologram, we are the virus that has infected it, and it's crumbling, and they can't repair it. So what they're trying to do desperately is yet create another one.
Oh, another copy. Yeah.
But it means right now we are closer, not the word, but to the original. Because this one is crumbling, we have greater access, easier access, blah, 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 to this original one. Is all of this making sense?
Yeah. I think the only person that may have trouble is someone who doesn't understand what reset is. But you've talked about it many times on the show, so I'll leave it to you whether you want to, go into that at all, or just let people.
Well, you can replace the word reset with mirroring, or
that's good.
Photocopying. But
I guess we've talked about resetting, and you and Dee on the other show a number of times. I think people don't understand what, if they're not a regular watcher, they may not understand what is reset and why would they want to do it? I don't get it.
Because they can't corrupt or manipulate the original, the organic one. They can't touch it. The only thing they can do is copy it. They can manipulate the copy because they wrote the program for it, right? So they can do whatever the hell they want. And the trick is getting us to tune into that instead of that. And that's all that's happened really, is that we're tuned into this one. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, but it wasn't my question. I know what it means, so I think it answered it. If it didn't, people will ask.
I'm just going to check on the chat room.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Okay, anything that is not in alignment with our experience, read that one. They are dissolving. How many are dying and disappearing? Well, I know. We're back to that. We're back to a spate. All those billionaires in China that are disappearing, I don't know what the hell that's about. Sounds like DNA making copies of itself. Each RNA strand is slightly diluted. exactly, the looping, and every new scenario has like 12 disciples, Keshi, etc. Yeah, Modo something, Modo Proporio. And this is why I say ignore and begin to create new energies instead of entering in their game and taking the bait.
I like what Lee says. He said, with your PC, for example, you can reset back to before a mistake was made, and then just start from that point. And everyone's familiar with that. I mean, everybody surely at one time or another has had to go back to an earlier version because something screwed up. So it's like that. Thank you, Lee. That was very, very educational.
To answer Anton's question, yes, the idea is to continue Gaia's Garden once Danny gets here. She actually can't move forward with it in Morocco anymore. It's pretty much impossible. But what she has done is source with reliable people the primary ingredients that she can then get sent here. So if we create in the organic, they will have a harder time trying to mirror it. I don't know.
Why would that be?
I don't know if they'll have a harder time trying to mirror it.
Because wouldn't it just be a copy of whatever's in there at that moment? Yeah. Unless we put things in there they don't want, like they put virus, like they put chips in our body. We're putting the equivalent of chips in the, stuff that they weren't expecting in the organic, and they may not want a copy of it with this stuff in it. Is that kind of where she was going?
I'm not sure. But everyone's got some interesting perspectives on
They do. They do. The chat room is really kicking some butt. They can't create themselves. Well, but I was listening to David Icke. Lisa was kind enough to share with me a 4-part presentation he did at Wembley. Each one's a couple of hours, more than 2 hours. I think the whole thing is 10 hours plus. But he talks about the fact that they cannot create. And he said, and this is almost a quote, if you put a blank piece of paper in front of them, they couldn't put anything on it. But if we put something on that blank piece of paper, they can manipulate it and massage it and move it all around that piece of paper. They just can't put it on the paper in the first place.
Well, that kind of ties into the whole AI concept as well. Because all it can do is deal with the input that it has, and the information that it has, but someone has to input that information to begin with.
True.
So where does that leave us? That leaves us with a few options. One, tuning into that organic original reality and playing in there. Upping the virus that we are in the photocopy. I mean, I was saying yesterday on the show that I keep having these synchronistic moments with David Icke.
I was too.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it was amazing. I mean, it was one after another, and then I would stop for a while, take a break, go do something, come back, and as soon as I turned it on, it was a synchronicity to whatever just happened before that. Honey, I'm on the. No, thank you.
Sure.
Yes.
I get it then. That's what I meant. Yeah. Okay. So what's everyone's feeling then? Going in there, trying to create in there, assisting the crumbling of the inorganic photocopy. I don't feel.
Do we know what we would do in the organic if we went there?
Create
what are
there
we
and
going to
leave
place
it crumbling as it's happening on its own. So let's talk about how people connect to the organic timeline. How about Simon Parkes? He seems to be in the news lately. I actually haven't caught up on anything Simon Parkes' stuff.
I haven't either, but I do like him.
You got all weird for me.
Yeah, but I embrace the weird.
Can somebody fill me in on what Simon Parkes has been up to lately then, Renee? I don't know. When he started looking like a character out of Star Trek, you know, odd way. I know he still says that something did happen in October, energetically at least, and it certainly was a funky time. I remember.
Yeah, I remember too.
Yeah, I think everyone's asking, Renee, put some stuff in. Because I haven't looked at him for months and months, so I have no idea. But
I liked a lot.
Sorry, go on.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, so how would we then tune into the organic, and what would we create? That's the question.
I think I have an idea of how to get to the organic, but I don't know what we would put there when, you know. I think it would be fun to put something in there that created a glitch, so that in the copy it would be extremely apparent, so people who are not awake or only slightly awake couldn't miss it, because it's like, you know, like a glitch right in their space. Just something to, you know, wake them up at this end. You know, to create a ripple in the waveform that is the hologram that they're you know, standing in.
I actually do think Sheila's asking, could that be what the Mandela effect is? And yeah, I think that's what it is. I think it's coming from the organic, and it's, you could say, bleeding into this copy. The question I've asked myself, though, is who or what is creating it in the first place? Is it? It's hard when you've got to deal with language, isn't it? Is it us here? You know, our consciousness here in this photocopy. Is that where we go in dream time? Is that where we go when we're daydreaming, when we're in deep meditation? Are we automatically in the organic then? Is that where we go?
Or the space between, you know, like the empty space.
Yeah. Maybe someone is already doing that. Yeah, there are those who say creator is doing it, prime creator. Some say, well, yeah, create what you love, do what you love doing, being present in your life. I got chills from that.
Well, let me throw this out here and tell me if I'm going too far to the left or if this has any relevance. So each one of us is really just a point of attraction. And we exist as a frequency or an energetic body that enjoys the time inside of this organic matter box. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So we don't actually exist in this box. It's here, and we're just kind of getting in like a can and, you know, screwing the lid on. So if we are doing this for ourselves so that we can, when I say we, I guess I maybe even should say, you know, the one source or whatever. When source is expressing itself in a number of points of attention, with such as each one of us being a point of attention, etc., animals, nature, whatever, anything is a point of attention. And we're doing it so that we can enjoy and have this experience here in this holographic world. then somehow I would think that we, or the source that is generating the collective points of attention so that it can express and experience itself. Have I lost you yet?
No?
Okay. Wouldn't we be the ones at the organic level, or who were programming the organic level, because we were doing it so that we could get in, or get in these bodies, or in other words, the one source who's sending out various points of attention to experience itself is doing so through these bodies. So wouldn't it be us, and not like an outside influence that's dealing at the organic level? But because the source would express itself in various points of attention that include George Bush, the stuff that we're talking about, the Rockefellers and all that. They are a point of attention. They are part of source too. That's just a point of attention. So wouldn't we be somewhere in that background creating the organic from which the copies are made? Because it's our intent to do so? To get out of here and experience this? Does that make sense?
Okay, I'm sort of trying to, there's a bunch of people's information and terminology that's racing around in my head right now. So I'm trying to, everything from David and Lily and Yellow Rose and a whole bunch of others. So let's say, for example, here's the organic, which is where what I used to call Big Lisa, but the part of us, the original bulk of our consciousness is in here. That when they created a photocopy, it pulled some of our consciousness in. It had to, because of if they really did manipulate DNA and blah, 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 right? So it pulls a part of our consciousness in, a small part, that this vehicle is just a manipulation of the original as well. That even the vehicle itself that is in the organic doesn't quite look like this one, right? Because it's not this
Sure,
one.
it's a copy.
It's a copy, but it's a manipulated copy. So, for example, your George Bushes and your everybody else over here in the original are not the people that we know.
Right.
There is a vehicle over here in the copy which is pulled in some of their consciousness, which is the one that they can then hijack, right? And maybe that when we do feel like we tune into our spirit, or it's our intuition, it's our bigger, our higher self, whatever that is, it really is over here. That's how close. It's just a breath away. It's just it's not, we're not as disconnected from it as we may be led to believe we are. Okay, my mind is running a million miles an hour right now, and I've got a million different images going through right here. But I do think that it is just a fraction of who we really are that's in this one.
Well, I guess the reason for asking that, or for providing that to get a clarification, is because if we go into the organic to leave something or to do something, aren't we? I guess what I don't get is what are we exactly are we doing? Because in some respects we are that. So are we doing something to the consciousness of us that exists at the original level? So I guess I'm not clear on what we're going to do there and why we're going to do it there. I can see why we would stop then at this copy level to just stop this and get back to what we're supposed to be doing. But if we go in the organic to tinker around, for what purpose? I don't know. I'm not making a lot of sense, but I can't quite grasp what the benefit would be to us here if we do it in the original organic, and don't we exist in the original organic, and what are we fighting?
I'm with you too. I feel like the bigger part of me, Big Lisa or whatever, who is hanging out in the organic, has got that covered.
Okay.
That's how I.
There's
what
my answer.
I feel like she's got that covered. It's us here in this photocopy that need to deal with the photocopy. That's kind of how I feel. But yeah, we exist in the original organic. I like the idea of hastening the matrix demise since it's fake, because it is dissolving. I don't think. Okay, Sheila, we need to get clear on taking the bait thing. I don't feel like it's taking the bait unless we're violent, unless we're aggressive, unless we're destructive. To me, that's taking the bait. That's feeding into the energy required to run this thing. If the original is a love-based frequency, which I believe it is, and this is a fear and negative, for whatever, want of a better word, based reality, then everything and anything that we do that's of a lower vibration is feeding it. It's running it. It's the power source. It's
keep the battery.
It's the battery for this thing, exactly. So if and when we do anything of that vibration, we're charging those batteries and taking the bait. But if it's done lovingly, if it's done from a place of, or even just neutral, then we're not charging the batteries. That's how I feel about it. It's a fur ball of entanglement. Talking to the fire, sacred rituals, spiritual cleanliness, and staying grounded can help find our source frequency. Less headspace and more heart space. I wonder if during this life you do harm and cause problems, will that destroy aspects of the organic form? Or is an organic aspect of yourself read-only, like data in a computer? Just as we've been... Okay, go.
I was just thinking, in a way, we're kind of mixing apples and oranges, unless I'm misunderstanding, because how I'm perceived, and I keep closing my eyes because it just helps me concentrate. How I'm perceiving this is a world, it's a holographic world, and again, unless I'm mistaken, the original is also a hologram. Okay, so I can't find the words. I know exactly what I'm feeling and thinking, and I know, but I don't have any words. It's like I'm trying to talk to somebody in a different language, and I don't know their language. So I can't explain myself. Isn't that weird?
Isn't that weird?
Sorry.
It's not like you at all.
I can't find the word. I know. I've usually got 3 words. And what will do? Well, then never mind, because honestly, I can't express what I'm trying to express. So I just can't find words.
Hum a few bars.
Well, I mean, the way that I see it is that there are multiple paradigms existing simultaneously, and many of them, if not all of them, really in the same space, just existing at different frequencies, so that it's the same space, but it's on a different plane or something, so that we're not really running into each other, but we're still all existing in the same space. So if there's an original, and from that copies were made, and we're living in one of those copies, then going to the original, I'm not even sure that because the original is there again for source to send out these. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry.
Go.
Remember when we were going through a period of and talking about and feeling like we were integrating other aspects of ourselves last year?
Uh-huh.
It was, and we were talking about how it all tied into the timelines, and it was what you just said prompted that. But I got the distinct feeling that all the alternatives, all the what we would call alternative timelines, were all photocopies. Okay,
Which makes sense, right?
so there's still just the one original over here.
Right.
All of these alternative timelines were all different versions, all different copies of it. And that as they were closing out, it was actually that aspect of us that had been drawn into that was going back here. It was actually going back there. And because it was, the other little aspects of us were feeling it, but it was actually here. Because as soon as that closes out, it goes back to source. It goes back to where it was drawn from. But because we are constantly connected to that, we were feeling that growing or becoming, I don't know, more. But that's what I felt. It wasn't like it was, I was this part of me, this aspect was integrating these things. It was like it was integrating over here. As soon as you said that, that's what I don't know.
Well, something came to mind that is weird, but I'm going to say it anyway. What if all of these copies at this juncture are required because they all are needed to balance out the whole? In other words, you've got the love, you've got the fear, existent, hologram, you've got this one and that one, and all of them, which ultimately may turn out to be all the paradigms and dimensions that we're talking about. So if you've got all of those, I'm still thinking why are we spending so much time? What if we need this? What if this dimension, this fear-based dimension, is necessary at some level, and all we need to do is just, get ourselves out of here?
Well, okay, that's exactly what I was the road I was on a few weeks ago. Here's a story. Could just be a fairy tale, but here's a story. So here you've got this original organic creation, right? And we would call that thesis. Okay? Just because it's created in a love-based frequency, it doesn't necessarily mean it is the be-all and end-all of everything, right? Because there's still what else is possible in this. There's always that question, what else is possible? So something consciously, I believe, a decision was made to create the antithesis. And this is the big question that everyone is floating around out there, of whether or not they are playing the perfect role they were asked to play, right? And that they are our partners in contrast and blah, blah, blah. Or whether we are truly victims of some kind of takeover. But if we take it right back, so here we have this original organic creation, but it's beautiful and it's amazing, and it's always got the question still contained within it of what else is possible, and that whether God, source, whatever, went, okay, well, let's find out who wants to help create, and somebody put their hand up. So created the photocopy, the inversion, the antithesis. So now we've got this thesis and antithesis.
Uh-huh.
Now, whether or not it was a hijacked photocopy or whether or not it was actually somebody putting their hand up and working with source to create, that's still the question, I guess. But I do think whether originally it was somebody volunteering or not, it kind of got out of hand. And they maybe run away with a little bit of power, went to their heads. But what we're in the process of doing now is the synthesis. Thesis, antithesis, synthesis. And this is where we're at right now. So it might actually be that the end result of this is the two do come together, the original and the photocopy. And we get this synthesis, this balance, this 0 point. Because to me, if we believe the idea that nothing ever gets destroyed, that everything is energy and energy is never destroyed, it just changes and stuff, then you can't erase this. It's not, it can change.
You don't change it.
And even though all these photocopies or alternative timelines or whatever, are closing out, they're not ceasing to be. They're just, perhaps we're in the process of closing it and they're integrating with the one prior to that, which is integrating with the one prior to that, and so on. Which means that ultimately we will have to end up with some kind of amalgamation, right? That's
until the next game begins.
Well, that could be the 1,000 years and everything that everyone talks about. It's like we finally get that moment of synthesis. We can all take a break and have a breath.
Because if you think about it, all the things that you just described, if that in fact is the case, then Source did this for the experience of it or the interest of it or because it was curious or for a reason like that. And now that game is coming to a conclusion. It's got to do something else. It's just energy. It's gonna want to do something else. So there will be something else. It's just, what is that something else? But I don't want to get too off topic. I'm just, trying to make sure that if we move forward with this, that we know what the goal is and that it's something we really want to do. We could destroy it and then all of a sudden realize that, we just destroyed the gateway to this world of fear. And we will all not wake up in the morning because it will not exist anymore.
I'm just reading through the chat room. Renee understands your mind blank. Words are so limiting. Takes discernment to know which soul shards belong to oneself and need to be integrated versus the program that keeps triggering us to integrate and express and live what does not actually belong to us. That prompts me to ask you, if you don't mind sharing,
I can share generically.
Because this is big. And when Barbara was telling me this, for those of you who are familiar with HK, I think she just did exactly what the HK training leads you to without having to do the training. Please share.
I'll try. But I want to just preface it by saying that I will share as much as I feel comfortable sharing because, this is a little weird. I don't know. How do you start? How did I start with telling you?
That a situation, you were very vague, a situation arose that you recognized was a pattern.
Oh, okay. Well, I can give you another one because it happened again last night with that same person, but this one was even better. I'm going to do the best I can to describe this without identifying all the particulars. There's a person that's in my life, and this individual and I were having a conversation, and we have faced challenges in communication for many, many years. And I recognized what I thought was the reason the other day, which has to do with perception. And it was even confirmed with a better example than the one I gave you just last night. I was talking with this person, and I said something to them. Well, I mean, you guys have seen me on the show. Sometimes I'm sure I've done this. When I'm trying to explain something, I end up telling a story. And sometimes that story gets really long because I start out here going, oh, let me just tell you. And then that leads to something, which leads to something, which leads to something. But eventually I'm going to get back to how that relates to that first point. But you know what? That can be a pain in the ass if you just wanted to hear 2 sentences and this chick is still talking 15 minutes later and she's still not got to the point. So I totally get that. And last night I caught myself doing that. I mean, I actually from inside of myself was saying, Jesus, get to the fucking point. And then I realized that I just said that to myself and I'm like, wow, isn't that interesting? So anyway, so what I did was I stopped myself and I said to this person, I said, listen, I don't even know when I'm going to get to that point. I'm just going to stop now because I can't get to this into the story without going through all these other things because that's just the way my mind is working. And I don't want to waste your time or mine going through those other things. And I have no idea how long this is going to take. So I'm just going to stop. And that person took it as if, not that I was criticizing them, but I was taking an action only to make them feel better because they had said off and on that this was something that I please work on because it really kind of bothers them they said it a little differently than that. So here I am actually commenting on myself. To me, I think the energy of my talk, I'm pointing it at me. This person thinks I'm pointing it at them. They think that I'm talking about them, at them, in their direction, you know, indirectly referring to them. They took it upon themselves. And because they said, listen, I'm really sorry. I didn't mean for you to feel like you had to. And I'm thinking, what? Why are they sorry? I just did it fucked up. Just now I fucked up. And I'm saying, thank you for bringing that to my attention because look, I just caught myself and I'm going to stop it. How cool is that? Because I keep finding that I'm able to hack into my programming and I'm catching myself regularly. And one case, I actually felt my programming break. And I mean, I felt it. I felt it physically. But anyway, back to the conversation when this person indicated that they thought I was talking about them or they were taking it on and feeling guilty, then I stopped and I realized again, look at this. Here we're having a conversation. I said something. Each one of us thinks that we're having a conversation about something and both of us think we're talking about something else. We're in the same space, talking, using the same words, having the same experience, but each one of us is having a different experience. And for many, many years until just recently, I never realized that that's what was taking place. So, you know, you're going to, unless you become awakened, you begin to do, as we typically do as humans, you'll defend yourself or you'll argue the point for yourself. Or you'll try to help the other person understand your point of view. But the whole point is you can keep doing that because you still think you're talking about this. In my case, if I was talking about it, I would be talking about myself. Thinking I'm talking about myself the whole time. And that person will the whole time think I'm talking about them. And there's nothing you can do to change that unless you recognize that your perceptions are completely different. So anyway, that's been happening on a pretty regular basis. And what I liked about that as an example was that there's no way to misunderstand that. I was talking about me, and this person thought I was referring to them. There's no mistake about that. And so when that person realized that I was talking about me, not only were they relieved, they felt their whole demeanor changed. The whole conversation changed. It was really interesting to watch because not only did they recognize that they had misunderstood what I was trying to express, they were really grateful for knowing that that's what was taking place because it took all this guilt off of them that they feel all the time. So anyway, I've come to the point where I've been able to recognize that I'm breaking programming. I did share with Lisa that this one program, I was here in the house by myself, but I was working on something and I was doing it the same way that I always did it, and I don't always get the results that I want. And I stopped and I went, why am I doing this? I mean, inside my head, I'm saying, why am I doing this? I know if I do it this way, I know it's going to happen because I've done it hundreds, if not thousands of times before, and I never get what I'm looking for. So why am I doing this? Why? And I stopped, and that's when I really recognized, and it was at that moment when I said to myself, well, I'm not going to do that. it was like that moment of setting the intent. I felt, let's see if I can try to describe it. It was both a sense, a touching kind of a sense, as well as a visual, but the visual was in my head. It wasn't something I could physically see, but I could see it in my head, if that makes sense. And the way that it felt was the way that it feels if your adrenaline goes really quick, like you hear a gunshot, or you see somebody getting hurt, or something surprises you, or somebody goes, boom, that kind of thing. And it's almost like when the hair rises up on your skin, but you just kind of feel that that electrical charge around you. That's what it felt like, but it was coming out from inside. So my whole body, say my whole arm, it would be coming out from every direction, from my skin. And what I visually could see were like little lines about this long, almost like little teeny tiny ringworm size things. They were all, I'll call them clear or white, but they were teeny little lines, and they were jetting out as little spurts of light at the same time that I was feeling that energetic rising out of my body. And it just went like that. It was only a second or two, but I felt it. And I felt like it came out of me at a DNA level. I mean, it was just, this is what it's a knowing. You don't think it, you're not having sentences in your head. But at the moment that it happened, it was a knowing. It was like, I felt it was DNA. I could see the little lines come out, and I felt the energetic exusion from my body. And I knew that I had just broke a program. And I said out loud, oh my God, I broke a program. And then I reevaluated in my head, and I said, I broke programming. Because I think I broke more than just a program. I think I actually broke the main program, because I recognized it. I recognized it then, and I'm recognizing it almost every time I'm running one. So I think that's what Lisa was wanting me to share with you guys. You're muted.
Sorry, my attention was required elsewhere for a minute.
That's okay. But how was that?
That was great. I really liked, when you were telling me the story, how you physically felt the release of programming. That is huge as far as I'm concerned, because I know that feeling, and it's like once it's gone, and you don't repeat it. And
I feel like I feel like I'm experiencing this world in a completely different way. And this has only been in the last few weeks that it's completely different. Again, I feel like I'm in the same space with the same objects, the same matter. It's all moving the same way, but something is different. It doesn't feel the same. It doesn't seem to be lit exactly the same. Whatever it is, it doesn't really matter.
Because you're different.
Yeah, there's just something different about this experience now. I am experiencing it differently than I did before.
Okay, well, thank you for that. Awesome. Now I just want to go back to the chat room, because there's been quite a bit going on in there. Maybe that's the prison doors that are open. We are at a time in this holographic universe that we get to choose the next reality. They are trying to get us to choose theirs. Exactly.
That makes a lot of sense.
Exactly. Out of here, where are you going? Yeah, all the saviors coming out of the woodwork. I hear a Roman fraud time clock chiming in the background, trying to keep us synchronized with the synthetic matrix. Every possibility has to exist for anything at all to exist. We bring our consciousness to something and bring it life. We determine where we bring our consciousness. We choose our holographic reality, and they keep that from us, and we go along with their reality. Third choice. Overlays. Maybe we don't have to change anything, just create balance in our own lives and create and manifest the reality bubble we choose to experience, free will, and live in. No blind creating for me. It's a game and I'm done playing. HK training has its way of expressing the concept of entities and how we choose to play their game. Yes, cause I think when we balance ourselves individually, the world moves into balance. Make your own game, i.e. free will, and create, manifest what makes you happy. We change the world by changing ourselves. Making them feel better can also be picking up someone else's psychic dirty laundry. Authentic communication is vital. That sounds like what I had thought shadow work to be. Recognizing projections of shadows brings them into consciousness. So these are all comments in regards to what you were saying, I think. Speaking heart to heart is the only thing that others seem to hear when I speak. Otherwise, I feel invisible most of the time. If only the whole world could feel that. I'm not buying, not changing anything artificial. Game needs to fry. Consciously choosing a new reality. So I think Alex is saying he's all for frying the CPUs. Go, Alex. I think Vicky might be too. So this also ties in the whole idea I was talking about before of the synthesis where the two need to come together. I'm inclined to feel that because of the visions and the images and the dreams and that so many people, including myself, have had of this wall coming down, this barrier somehow, whether it crumbles, whether, doors open in it or portals open up in it or whatever it looks like for people. They've all had the same concept where there is this barrier that crumbles and then there is this whole other reality on the other side. I don't buy into the idea that we're going anywhere, whether it's ships turning up and taking us somewhere or ascending and leaving these bodies and ending up somewhere. I just can't feel into that at all. But at the same time, this doesn't feel like home. So how can they both be true? Is kind of the question I keep asking myself, and the only answer I get is that there's the two come together.
What about this? When data moves, let's say you send an email. When data moves, it just is sent in little packets of information, little bits, and it just goes like that. So what if all of these multiple existences, all these copies, are all connected to the same mainframe, so to speak? And there have got to be times when, just like when we go wonky on Skype, the information intersects and, fucks with, itself. I can imagine where we get bits and pieces from the other existences simply because it's energy passing through in some way where it's got to be intersecting, or, time and again, we have to be falling on each other. The information has to be falling on each other.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Cosmin, AI and transhumanist agenda, unfortunately, is spreading its tentacles into our home. I would like you to please clarify what you mean by home. Are you talking about the organic? Because I don't think they can touch that. Or are you talking about your physical home in this reality? Well, please clarify. Please clarify. Blessings, one and all. Okay. I'm off to bust the matrix. See you in the dream time. See you, Vicky. Identify and remove the creators of this weird copy of the authentic human expression, and we will be happy to stay in our home. Our home, our organic earth, is what you meant by home. Personally, I don't think this artificial thing can touch that. That's why it had to create a copy. That's just my feeling on it. Because they can't touch it. They can't even manipulate that. They can't do anything. They had to create a copy that they could touch and manipulate. Because there's a lot of reasons why I think that, but one of them would be that, again, what I would call Big Lisa, feels untouchable. They can manipulate and play and fuck with me, but not her. To put it in the simplest of terms. Yeah, but it is GMO, chemtrail, CERN, fluoride, Wi-Fi, etc., etc. Yeah, in this copy, for sure. But again, we get back to the question of how do we tune in more consciously? I mean, is it going to be a case of we just start... I'm going back to really old prophecies and stuff too, where it talks about people just disappearing or people dying, you know, in 1,000 will fall on your left and your right and all that sort of thing. I mean, do we just start vacating this copy? And
maybe that's what's happening. I mean, that they're not leaving. Their death isn't really death. Their death was a concerted choice on behalf of many of those people to move on to wherever they actually went.
I mean, I do think that one of the reasons why, if we look at this as a construct, synthetic construct that needs a power source, because it can't even power itself from source energy. It has to be self-sustaining from something else.
Us?
Yeah, exactly. In a way, we are the perfect free energy system.
Yeah.
Thing and keeping it self-sustaining. It's a closed loop. And because there are so many of us who are not buying in, who are not feeding it anymore, with fear, with hatred, with anger, with judgment, with whatever, you know, it's like they have to up the ante to get more power out of those who are. So this is why we're seeing the craziness that we're seeing. It's because instead of 100 people feeding it at a nice little even rate of fear, now there's only 50 feeding it, so there has to be more fear from those 50.
Yeah.
And then as it drops down to 25, then those 25 need to be in a state of constant fucking panic. So I just think that's what's happening. That the reason we're seeing everything go as crazy as it is because they need to get more power out of the fewer and fewer and fewer people who are feeding it. Does that make sense?
It does, except are there really, you mean by fewer because people are waking up?
Yes.
Yeah.
People aren't engaging. People aren't seeing a mass shooting in the States somewhere and going into a state of panic and fear.
Yeah,
and
like before.
No, they're going, oh, what are they fucking up to now?
Yeah.
Oh, that's fake. That's fake. And they're not getting the response from as many people.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They see it on the news and then they go, oh, well, I'll find out what it's really all about and jump on Facebook.
Yeah.
And so the less and less people who are engaging or responding the way they need to, want them to, they just keep needing to up the ante.
Maybe it is truly like a game, like Monopoly or something, and they're trying really hard to keep throwing things to distract us, but all we really have to do is reach that plateau of a certain percentage of people being awake, aware, and being in states of love and gratitude, et cetera, to keep that vibration at a certain place. And that if once we do that, we win. And when we win, it's just like everything just kind of disintegrates and the energy goes to wherever like the winners go. Do you know what I mean? Whether that's the next dimension or the organic source or whatever it is. But I think it's almost like it's a game where they're trying really hard to keep us in the state, but that we are so busy paying attention to the distractions, we don't realize how easy it is for us to move on to win the game. And once you win, I think it's going to be unexpected. that we don't have any idea how really cool it's going to be. It's just everything will just instantly be different.
Okay, I'm not quite following the conversation that's happening in the chat room at the moment. I think it's a question. So the organic and the copy will separate, or will the copy be dissolved from lack of low fear energy? At the moment, Renee, I'm inclined to feel like it's going to integrate in order to achieve that synthesis. Because what if the organic is an extremely positive polarity? Like extremely positive. That's not balanced either. So then we've got this antithesis, which is extremely negative. So you bring the two together and you get the synthesis, the balance. And to me, synthesis means that the two extremes have been incorporated and the tension between them is gone, because they're not at extreme opposites. So you don't have this tension anymore, but they're both incorporated. It's a tricky balance. That's where I'm inclined to feel we're heading. That's what we're creating, blending the two together. Because also back to nothing ever dies, energy never dies. But that's obviously just my concept.
Well, we've probably got another 10, 15 minutes before, we have to move in one direction or another with respect to the meditation.
All right. Then I would love everyone if you could put some sort of suggestion into the chat room of what doing you would like to do. I want to hear from you all. Love is too much for them. Regular thought can handle and take control of heart. Has more neurons in the brain, and that's why they latch onto the brain. It's predictable. Exactly, Barbara. I only read headlines to get a feel for what's going on. Otherwise, I don't care what they're throwing at us. This is the marriage of the divine masculine, divine feminine within each of us. The pendulum meets in the middle. The actual frequency range of the brain shows us this. It's predictable, only goes up to 60 hertz. Collectively concentrate on getting Danny to Oz. Oh, that's a beautiful concept.
What did she say?
To act.
Oh, yeah.
Concentrate on getting Danny to Oz. That's actually a really beautiful suggestion. Danny would be very touched that you thought of that.
Yes.
And that's something we can all agree on, says Linda. Does Danny have Oz visas? They're in the process of, it sounds like that's unanimous. Here we've just spent an hour and a half talking about what we've been talking about. The conclusion is let's just get Danny to Oz. I think that's awesome.
I would like to ask, though, just for my own edification, how do you guys feel about the conversation we've had for the last hour and a half? Do you find it interesting? Do you think it waned? Do you think it, was interesting but should have been shorter? You want it to go on for days? What do you think about what we've been talking about? So we're trying to make sure that we, this show is for you, so your input is really valuable to us.
It was very interesting, was one comment. A little loose was another, and interesting was another.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the feedback, really.
I mean, this is this is the conversations Barbara and I like to have, but there's no point if you don't join them. We can do that offline. A topic that needs more thought.
What does that mean? A topic that needs more thought?
You mean we should go?
Give me an example,
Linda, or spend more time on this? We need to discuss it more before we actually act on it, I think.
Good point.
Anyone down for a CPU false matrix stir fry, or am I the only one? Says Alex.
That's funny.
Sheila would like to be more geared towards constructive, love-based doing, basically. Deborah likes the topic and hearing the various views, and Renee loves being together. The free format brings its own authenticity. Okay, so we don't have to act on that yet. Everybody have a feel and a mull over. Alex, hearing you loud and clear about frying CPUs, I'm all for it myself, so we could do that. We could set a time to do that, and for those who are inclined to do it, we can invite them along, and those who don't want to participate don't have to. But we could, in the near future, set a date for that specific thing so that everyone's not caught off guard, and only those who want to be proactive in that way can be here.
Hey, Lisa, I need to step away for just a moment. I'll be right back. Thank you.
Okay, everyone feels like that's a good idea by the looks of things. Dee will be coming to me. We're up here, up northern New South Wales. I'm in the process of trying to find something that can accommodate her family, my family, a bunch of people. So that's where things are at, really. We have some big plans for when she gets here of things to do together. Physical workshops that we'll be running, as well as some stuff going on online. There's a whole bunch of plans, and we've been talking about this and mulling the idea over for months. And when I first approached them about getting out of Morocco and coming here, they were all like, no, we're fine. And then as soon as that kind of conversation got started, one thing after another just went south in Morocco. So it got to a point where they're more than ready. And yeah, fun and games. What's Medita? What is that? What have I missed? Did I miss something in the chat that explained that? Yeah, I'm not the only one who doesn't know what Medita means. Oh, I am happy at the happiness and good fortune of another. Oh, nice. Sanskrit. Thank you.
I posted something last week that happiness is my religion.
And I have a right to practice my religion.
That's right.
Okay, so maybe we could do it next week. Like, we'll say this now, that next week on the Collective Imagination Show, it's for those people who want to actively fry CPUs. That's what we're going to do next week. We're going to work on the deconstruction of the matrix. So if you don't want to join us next week, that's absolutely fine. Join us the week after, and we'll do some sort of love-based creation manifestation. So let's go with that. And in the meantime, today we will do something for Dee, which I think is just lovely. She would be very, very happy about that. So I guess just visualizing them here, or seeing the two of us together. And it's clearly in the Australian surroundings because I'm the one. She's 20. Yeah, she's about a quarter of the way to her funding goal already, which is brilliant.
Isn't there a GoFundMe or something for that?
That's something that we'll link for.
Yeah, just for people who are going to be listening to this call instead of being here with us live. It would be nice to at least give them some way to find it. If you know what it's, because we're not going to be able to give them a link. It's probably a wonky link.
It's at a
Do you know what she called the?
Well, it's at a place called youcaring.com. And then if you do a little search and just do a search for her name, Danny McKinney, it'll come up for you. And it's called From Morocco to Oz, the Transpicuous Relocation Project. Oh, actually, she's gone up to $4,122 of the $12,000 goal as of this moment. So that's awesome.
Yeah, so that's cool that you recorded it, because then we'll be able to see how long it takes, whether it's minutes, hours, or days before she's got what she needs.
Yep, that's the link that someone's just put into the chat room. I mean, I love those kids. They're beautiful kids. And they have been pretty much on their own for over a year now, since Phoenix. My daughter left Morocco. It's just the four of them. They've got no friends. They've got no social network. They've got nothing. And, you know, the isolation's pretty hard on those kids. And it's hard on Nick and Dee too. But getting them here where they can have kids to play with, kids to talk to in a language they can understand, and you know, that's the big one for me. So that's 30%. Awesome. Okay. How do we do this? All right, I got some ideas. If anyone else wants to put some in about what you'd like to sort of visualize and not have rocks thrown at them. Exactly, Linda. That's just started.
Really?
Yeah, the neighbourhood kids have just started throwing rocks at their house.
Well, if I was trying to manifest the necessaries to get people moved from one location to another, some of the things that I would do would be just see that it's done. That I would probably say something like, we don't have to do it this way because it ain't my show, it's your show.
Oh, rubbish.
But I would probably say something like, I'm in the process of uncovering and exploring everything that I need to do, know, and have in order to get Danny's family to Oz. I love the idea that she and her family will be traveling in wonderful weather and ideal conditions to a new and lovely place with lots of new friends and family and tons of love to what's the word, to nourish and enlighten them.
You just got the job.
Yeah. Well, I'm not a Michael or a Lisa, but I would probably just say it something like that.
Okay, well, I tell you what, I'm going to get us into the space, and then you can say what you just said or something, some version of that, and then we'll start throwing out some visuals.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to turn the screen off, but I'm going to hang on before I do that, so that you guys don't have blank walls to look at, black screens to look at. Where is it? Where's it gone? Here we go. Okay. There we go. Nice.
Okay.
All right. Everybody get comfortable. Feet flat on the floor if you can. Back nice and straight, but in a comfortable way. Don't strain anything. Take some nice deep breaths. Draw your attention to your heart space, your higher heart center. Where spirit lives, where the bigger part of you communicates with you. Take a nice deep breath and expand that energy out from your heart space. Feel your light, your being, your essence, your power radiate, filling every cell, flooding every cell of your physical body, emanating out beyond the body, cleansing, clearing, balancing the space, all of the empty space around you. Now see that bubble that we have created and infused many times before. Incredible blues and greens that holds the collective energy and intentions that we've previously put in it. Everybody's energetic signature is in there. You recognize them now. You can feel others. Now Barbara will share.
I'm in the process of uncovering and exploring everything that I need to do, know, and have in order to assure that Danny and her family get to Oz with safe passage and plenty of resources to achieve all of the goals that they seek. I'm excited at the idea of them opening their computer and seeing their bank account is high with funds from all the individuals who have found a way to generate the energy that would be converted into what we would call dollars to show up into that account. I can't imagine how exciting it would be to be able to go to the crowdfunding page and see that the goal has been met. I can see the smiles on their faces. I can see them packing their bags. I can see them leaving on a beautiful sunny day with a blue sky. I can see them all piling into the transportation to get them where they're going. I can hear the sounds of the area where the people are all arriving, whether it's boats or trains or planes or cars or just pure walking on your own 2 feet. I can see all these folks gathered in that area, all going in their own places with Danny and her family, excited and enthused and on their way to the future that they all seek. You can go ahead, Lise.
So see the funding campaign page and see their goal exceeded. Imagine your Facebook feed and a post from Dee saying, "We're on our way to Oz." See the two of us, see Dee and I a photo of us sitting together. A snapshot, a still shot from a show. Or see us embracing at the airport. See other photos on your Facebook news feed of the community that we're building and the progress that we're making and the updates that we're sharing, the gardens that we're growing together. See the paperwork just flowing through where it needs to. Everything gets ticked. Everything gets approved. See these happy kids playing in the garden, feeding a wallaby, playing with other kids. See Dee and I holding a workshop on the community, and you're all invited.
And it all comes easily.
And it all flows with ease and grace. Take a nice deep breath, and we're going to blow that whole visualization out everywhere. Send it with your love and your gratitude to Dee. And bring your attention back to your heart space. Now ground that energy, ground that visualization down through your feet. See it spread through the earth. And open your eyes when you're ready. That was lovely.
It was lovely.
And I felt something that was, I don't really know what it was. But when I blew all that out, that last breath, and then brought my attention back to heart space, it felt like I was also receiving all of that.
That's great.
I think all of us might have just, whatever we put out, we're about to get back for ourselves as well.
I could feel the energy of the group. And I also somebody walked by me and I didn't see them at all, but I heard, hello.
I actually felt and saw Linda. Linda Bell.
Really?
Yeah, you were
Linda,
really strong for me, Linda.
Linda, were you traveling around saying hello to everybody? Wow. Yeah, that was cool because I didn't see a person. I just heard the voice and I felt the energy of the voice, and it was a female voice.
It's actually why I said it, because it was Linda that was like right there. It's like, oh, hello, there's everybody.
She said, sorta, I was focused on seeing everything. Well, someone said hello to me as they walked by, so hello.
But I have a feeling, not that we were consciously doing it, I have a feeling we all just did that for each other.
Ah.
I'd be surprised if some good stuff starts to happen for you. Unexpected.
More good stuff.
Lots of love flowed, yeah. Yeah. Danny's given us all so much. It's really easy to give back in such a way. You know, that's how I feel.
Yeah, she never asks for anything in return.
Unless he absolutely positively needs it.
Mm-hmm.
He waits until she's like absolutely positively in need before she says anything. Okay, that was lovely and a beautiful note to leave it on. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for such a selfless intention.
Yeah, that was really great. Whose idea was that?
I can't remember who first put it out there, but everybody jumped on it and agreed. So,
yeah, thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Sheila. Okay. Thank you, Sheila, for suggesting it. Okay. Okay, just to wrap up, because we've only got a few minutes. So I think, hang on. I think that it is very desirable for the highest and best of all that certain groups within us be together in density, such as Lisa and Danny. We've all talked about it, that we're finding our tribes for a long time now, and coming together physically is the next step. We've done it. There's the Unfuckers group on Facebook. We've started having calls before Christmas just amongst ourselves, and that's grown into, I think they have a call every night of the week almost.
Do they?
Yeah. And there are people who tried community all their life and have got more of a sense of community with that group of callers. Oh.
That was really weird. It almost sounded like, I don't know, deeply.
We've got somebody unmiked. Maybe they wanted to say something.
Yeah, somebody clearly unmuted.
Bob, you're unmuted.
Would you like to share?
He's not coming through though.
Yeah, I can see it. No, I would not.
Okay, I will mute that one. I don't even know what I was saying now. Lost my train of thought. No, it's gone. Oh, the community. Yeah. To me, the next step is in physical, because everyone's done this now for a year or so. Just coming together online with different groups that they're just totally resonating with and finding more of a sense of community with than even those who they've gone and tried intentional communities over the years. And I think the next step is everyone's going to start moving around physically and getting together. And hopefully, plan is that we are working towards creating one of those right here. So, it's up and running.
Yeah, remind me to tell you at some point about the Amtrak workshop project that I'm working on. I'm going to hold workshops on the Amtrak. That sounds fun.
What's that?
The Amtrak is a train.
You're going to hold workshops on a train carriage or about the Amtrak?
Yeah, you know the train that I had those pictures I posted when I was traveling down south? Yeah, on a train like that. They've got one called the Zephyr that goes from New York to California and back, 4 days there and 4 days back. I just think that sounds like a blast. You don't have to go the whole way. You can just go one way, or you can go both ways. You can get on anywhere along the way, and I'll tell you more as I'm getting closer. But doesn't that sound like fun as hell?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that in 2016. Who's going to join me?
That would have been a much easier way to do the Opal tour.
That's true. And it's really reasonably priced too. It's a major point for me. Anybody could take the train. It doesn't even cost like $150 if you can order it more than 2 weeks in advance.
To go all the way across the country?
It depends on if they've got the seats, which particular train you're picking, and how long in advance you book it. But yeah, sometimes you can. And the regular seats, if you just want to take and they're big seats too. I think the most I've ever seen one was for like $285, but that's like the regular price. But you can always get discounts if you go online and you just shop early, so to speak.
So are you looking at like hiring a whole car?
Not yet. I want to do a test first, and I'm just going to let people know I'm going to be on this train at this time, and here's a link to where the route is if you want to jump along and join me anywhere along the way, and then just test that one out and just see what worked, what didn't work. I'm not going to do anything formal. I'm going to have structured stuff that I'm going to do, but I'm not going to book it in advance and get people to pay me in advance, and fuck that. I just want to see. I want to have some fun. I'd be doing it anyway, even if nobody else is on there except me. So let's have a bunch of other people join me. Let's have a bunch of fun. And then from there, I'll be able to get a better handle on how it could work, what would be needed. I just got to test the waters first. But I just think that sounds like fun. Then come back, then do another one. You could do that all year round.
That is a brilliant idea.
Thank you.
I love it.
I know. I like it too.
That's awesome. All right. Thank you guys for
Yes, thank you guys.
Today's incredible conversation. So next week we're frying CPUs. So be forewarned. And the week after we will go back to something more I don't know what's the word. Love-based creative. Not that this is not love-based, but someone... Camilla's bringing a picture. All right. Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody, and we will see you next week. Bye for now.
Bye.